On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, we did it. The preseason is over. This is the last preseason show. College basketball will start on Monday night. Two big games. You got Baylor. You got Gonzaga playing each other. That one's late. That one's after Monday Night Football. Is that right? Was it you that told me that they scheduled it that way? Or was it Jim Root that told me that? They're playing. Like I'm fired up about it. That's going to be a game to
10:30 p.m.
to start us off. Not exactly fired up about the start time, but that's okay. That's okay. That's an old man problem. I gotta find some coffee and get excited about it. But yeah, the preseason is over. We made it to the start of the season. The next time we do a show, we will be reacting to real games. In the meantime, I have some exhibition games I want to talk about. Chief among them. Are you seeing this shit from Duke? You seeing this shit from Duke?
We might have a Cameron crazy over here.
You seeing what's going on in Durham right now? Holy fucking good God Almighty! Duke beats Arizona State. Listen, I'm not mistaking Arizona State for a national title contender, but when you are a team full of freshmen, and I don't want to overreact to exhibition games. You know that. That's not what I'm here to do. But at the same time, that's exactly what I'm going to do. When you have a team full of freshmen beat a power conference team, and I understand that Arizona State's best player, he's like 15 years old as well, and there's some context to take into account. But when you have a team full of freshmen that beats a power conference team by almost 60 points, I don't care about any of the context. You have my attention, and the Duke hype train is out of control, and I might be driving. I might be driving the train. I might be conducting the train right now. Because Cooper Flagg wasn't even – I mean, we'll talk about it. Cooper Flagg was not even the best player on the floor for Duke. And, yeah, that was one thing that stood out to me. Also, Arkansas, the number one team in the country, Kansas, plays at Arkansas. They're down Hunter Dickinson. Rylan Griffin doesn't play. They're banged up, so it wasn't like a true one-to-one comparison. But at the same time, John Calipari has done it again. He's got a ton of talent. This Boogie Flan kid is unbelievable as well. I'm very excited about him. And how many months ago I was calling John Calipari a bozo, and now I'm back to watching John Calipari teams, and I'm like, I don't know. I can see the vision. I can kind of see the vision. But we got to pump the brakes on them. But I am very excited about Boogie Fland. Alabama beats Memphis. Creighton Purdue had a good one. Indiana, surprising exhibition win, I would say, over Tennessee, a Tennessee team that has a lot of question marks. Actually, I don't really know what to expect from Tennessee. A lot of exhibition stuff to talk about. Probably want to talk about Duke for most of the show. I have a Duke problem. I won't lie. I have a Duke problem. Con Knipple is unfucking believable. I don't know. This Duke team feels like they're about to be something special, and we'll get into it. We'll just get into it. But yeah, the preseason's over. Next time we do a show, it's going to be real college basketball. In the meantime, let's talk about some exhibition games, maybe a little NBA talk. Let's get into it. All right. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Duke, and I'm just saying that to remind myself, because I really don't want this to be an hour-long show about Duke, Tate. But I want to make these points about Duke before the season starts, before the real-life games happen, before Duke. They'll probably lose a game they shouldn't, and everyone will be like, why did we think this team was going to be as good as they're going to be, all that sort of thing. I'm not here to tell you that they're the best team in the country. I'm not here to say that I'm wagering real-life money on them to win the national championship. What I do want to point out, though, from the exhibition, and again, there is context with it. Like, Arizona State was not going into this saying, like, we got to do everything we can to beat Duke. Bobby Hurley, it was like a homecoming for him, so I imagine, like, he was probably a little confused isn't the right word, but, like, he's probably not laser focused on, like, let's win this game. He's probably, a little bit of him is probably like, yeah, I would like to go around campus and shake hands with people I haven't seen in a while and all that sort of shit. All that context should be taken into account. I'm going to focus on these things, though, and I do think these things matter from the Duke exhibition, which, again, if you missed it, Duke over the weekend beat Arizona State 103-47. The things that stood out to me, number one, Cooper Flagg is a primary defender with Maluach. I will eventually get his name right because he's going to be a fucking beast for them. Mm-hmm. The big kid from I think he's from South Sudan.
He is South Sudan.
Yeah, the big African kid that they brought in that's a freshman that's like raw as hell, but like you see the athleticism and the length and he can dunk on everybody. And to have Cooper Flagg as a primary defender and Maluach as like your help side, come over and clean up the mess defender is a fucking nightmare to go against. That is going to be like that. the reason I think I'm so excited, freshmen are not supposed to be this good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Freshmen are not supposed to be this cohesive and locked in defensively. Now, there are question marks around Duke. I think Caleb Foster starting the game as the primary point guard, not Tyrese Proctor. When going into last season, at this point last season, we were supposed to be gearing up for a Tyrese Proctor leap, a sophomore leap, where he was going to be, like everyone was talking about how he's going to be, the best player on Duke, and he's going to be, the catalyst that makes Duke as the team to beat in the ACC. And Duke ended up having a decent season, but like that Tyrese Proctor never really materialized in the way that I think people expected him to last year. This year, if we're looking at the exhibition, Caleb Foster starts out running point. Tyrese Proctor's playing off the ball a little bit. I think that will be a story throughout the years. Like that tells me that like Shire is tinkering with like the backcourt chemistry and like what roles he wants each of these guys to play and all that sort of thing. But what I got really excited about, and what I think Duke fans should be excited about, is number one, Cooper Flagg was not the best player in this game that they won by 60. Con Knippel was unbelievable shooting the ball. He's a gunner, by the way, which I love. I love that like he misses his first like 5. He's like, I'm just gonna keep shooting and I'm going to start hitting them. Number two, the defense is something that I think when you're starting 3 freshmen, the expectation is that the defense is going to take some time to come around, and they have it right. Like I expect Duke to be. The metrics are probably not going to have them number 1 defense in the country, because I imagine like Houston will be number 1 because they're just fucking Houston and they're awesome. But Duke should be a top 5 defense. If Duke's not a top 5 defense, it's coaching malpractice from John Sire, because I've seen enough that Cooper Flagg between just the 2 freshmen. And that's not to say any, like Proctor can guard and Caleb Foster's athletic and Knippel gets after it. Like I think that Duke is going to be a top 5 defense. I think that that Cooper Flagg not even being there, like frankly, I didn't even think he was good offensively against Arizona State, and that's a great sign for Duke to score 103 points when Cooper Flagg wasn't even awesome. Yeah, that's what jumped out to me, because I think from the outside, like as a guy that's not like super plugged in on what was going on with Duke and their whole recruiting class and all that, I was just sort of drinking the Cooper Flagg Kool-Aid. Right. Part of me was, of course, I knew Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor they've been around for a couple years, but I was worried that going into the season it was going to be the Cooper Flagg show, which would be fun in the sense of like he's going to be the number 1 pick and we're going to talk about him a lot, but how good is the team? Are they going to be relying on him? And after watching Arizona State game, I was like, oh my God, they're just going to be great defensively, and they're going to have shooters all over the floor. They were incredible.
Yeah, and this is the most exciting thing if you're a Duke fan, which clearly Titus has apparently become, is that you would think this would be where they're at their worst. Yeah. Like they start 3 freshmen, they've got a new team, they're in their exhibition game season. They should be night and day different defensively, especially in February.
Right.
Like when you have a full season of coaching up these freshmen that aren't used to playing, they played a Power 4 basketball team and looked great on defense and beat them by 60. So I think more so than how they looked in this game, you have to be optimistic that this team hasn't even touched.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be good right now. They're supposed to be good later. And then you factor in like the ACC is not great this year. It's Duke and Carolina at the top. Probably Clemson. It could be Louisville by the end of the I don't know who the 3rd best team in the ACC is going to be. So Duke's going to have Duke's non-conference schedule is tough.
Right.
Like they're going to have some tests early. But I don't know. It's setting up to be a very special season for Duke. But every Duke fan is like it's a special season every year. But I think the Cooper Flagg hype is what it is. But the Malowach kid is he's going to be a beast. I think he's the one for me, because it's like you can tell that I think they said it on the broadcast. You can just tell he's one of those guys that like hasn't been playing basketball for a long time.
He came from the NBA academy in Africa. So.
Yeah, like somewhere along the line, someone pulled him aside and was like, "Hey man, you're like 6'9". You should not be playing soccer. You should be playing basketball." And he's like, "Huh?"
And he became 7'2".
Yeah, and then he just kept growing, and then now he's like, "Basketball. So what do I do? I just dunk it? You mean like this? I just go like this?" And they're like, "Yeah, man, like that. That's pretty fucking good." So I think by the time February rolls around, like how good is he going to be? Knippel's unbelievable. Knippel is like he is And again, it's not even that he's a good shooter. It's that he has the mindset. He's like now there are probably going to be games where he's like 1 for 10, and you're like, what are we doing, Con? Let's calm down a little bit. But to be a freshman and to be on that stage and to know that all eyes are on you, because there are going to be. I've said it on the show throughout the offseason. I was like, Duke is going to be a team that everyone's going to watch when you're thrown on the TV and you don't really know what else. You're not really locked in on college basketball, and you're like, what should I be? Oh, Duke's on. The Cooper Flag kid, I know him. I'm going to watch them. They're going to be that team this year that people just kind of throw on if they don't know what else to watch. And Con Knippel knows this, and he knows that I'm not saying that everybody was locked in on an Arizona State exhibition game, but to be sharing a floor with Cooper Flag and to have that mindset. Now, this is twice now that he's done this, so I think this is just who he is. They've had 2 exhibition games, and this is what he's done. I think this is just who he's going to be. Is like, if I have the smallest amount of space, it's going up, and it's probably going in. I love that mindset, and I think he's going to be special for them. And that's to say nothing of you have Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor, who I obviously are super talented, and Proctor, like I said earlier, like he wasn't as good last year as I think they were expecting him to be. He's still very, very good. He's still very good. Now, they are going to have to figure out like what their roles are. If Proctor I thought would be the point guard. It feels like they're toying with Caleb Foster being the point guard, and they want Proctor to be more of a shooter off the ball. But I think as the season wears on, it's just going to be like it's probably just going to be whoever gets the rebound, just get out and go. Just get out and go. And it's not like we're not going to be a team that walks the ball up the floor, and we need a guy that's calling out plays as he's, backing the ball up the floor. So, I think if you're a Duke fan, you have to be very excited about what you saw over the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that UNC played Johnson C. Smith in their exhibition game, a Division II team, and they're all excited. I saw some tweets how they won by 60. Okay.
Yeah.
On the other side of the road, Duke played a Power 4 team. They won the second half, Titus, 66-26.
It's crazy.
Think if they tried that out in a real game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's an exhibition game. There are these teams beating the shit out of all these other, like a lot of exhibition games we're seeing insane score lines. We're not seeing it against a Big 12 school, that again, Arizona State is not I don't.
But they're also not a doormat.
They're not.
That's the thing.
They're not a doormat.
They were about 500 last year.
No one's expecting Arizona State to also finish last in the conference either. So for them to beat the shit out of Arizona State, that had my attention for sure. I do think though by the end of the year, I think Tyrese Proctor will be the most important player on Duke. That was something that I took away. I do think that they will go as far as he takes them, both in the sense that like backcourt is. I still think backcourt is the most important indicator of NCAA tournament success.
Right.
It's very, very rare to ride, a big and people would point to like, well, Purdue last year makes the Final Four. Also, if you watch the national championship, like the difference in backcourt was stark, and that's ultimately what doomed Purdue. And on top of that, like Braden Smith's not bad at all. Braden Smith is very, very good. So I think teams that like rely heavily on the front court, finding success in March is very rare if you're like a predominantly front court reliant team. So I do think ultimately for Duke to go where they want to go, Foster and Proctor have to take them there. I think it's ultimately going to fall on Proctor. But also Proctor has to be he's the junior on the team. He's the old seasoned veteran with this younger group. I guess like a guy like Mason Gillis coming off the bench, he's been around too for a million years, but he's obviously not going to be playing Proctor's minutes. Proctor's got to be the guy that huddles them together during free throws, and says God knows what. But that's like a Duke staple. All the best Duke teams, there's a foul that's called. Free throws are about to be shot. They huddle up.
Greg Paulus calls everyone in.
Greg Paulus calls them all in, Tate, and he says, make shots. All right, and then get out of here.
Is that what you're concerned about the most, though? Like what going into the season, because you're obviously high on Duke, how does this go downhill instead of uphill?
I would say it's backcourt. I would say it's I would say that like I will say Cooper Flag like offensively is not a finished product. I do think that like he's got all the tools, but he looked a little.
He finished with 9 points. He was like 3 of 10 shooting, I believe.
He looked a little indecisive at times. He looked a little in his own head at times. But when he got a full head of steam and he's going at the rim, he's good. When he's obviously a good shooter, so like you get him in like a pick and pop situation, he's good. When you're putting the ball in his hands and saying go make a play, he can be great. I don't know how consistently he can be great. And I'm not saying that as like a criticism. I'm saying I genuinely do not know. Right. I haven't seen enough of him in those spots. Yeah, and anytime you're relying on freshmen to this extent, you do worry about what happens when experience comes into play. What happens when you're on the road and the refs are sucking ass and the fans are going crazy and the freshmen are like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, Cooper Flagg drives to the basket. He's already got 2 fouls, and he's like, Coach, leave me in, I'm good. And then he drives to the basket, and he's trying to like get himself going and dunk on somebody, and there's a very late slide over for a charge, and it's so obviously a block, and everybody can tell it's a block, and they call it a charge. And like, what happens when like that shit like that happens at Cooper Flagg? Does he lose his mind? Because that shit will happen. That 100%. will 100% happen. The bench, like how deep is this team? How many like actually reliable guys are you pulling off the bench? I do. Mason Gillis is a guy I keep going back to, and like some people in college basketball laugh at me when I point that out. Maybe it's the Indiana in me that like I see Mason Gillis. I'm like, dude, that guy. I think he has the Purdue record for most or the Mackey Arena record, the most threes hit in a game. I genuinely believe that there will be 1 to 3 games this year, 1 to 3. So so the options, I'll spell this out for you. It could be 1, it could be 2, or it could be 3. It'll be no more than 3. It'll be no fewer than 1 games this year where Mason Gillis has a little stretch where he's just like hitting everything, and he hits like 3 or 4 threes in a game, and people in the ACC are like, where the fuck did this come from? But everyone in the Big Ten is like, no, that's what he can do.
He's a 41% career 3-point shooter. Like you said, he hit 9 in Mackey Arena and then turned his back. We're acting like he's not a big pickup, and you've been on it from the beginning. That dude's gonna hit shots in a big game.
He's gonna hit shots like he's gonna have games where he plays 5 minutes and he doesn't do a goddamn thing.
Right.
And then he's gonna have a game like a random ass game at Wake Forest.
Go 5 of 7 from 3. And like shit, that guy.
Where he's just getting wide open looks because everybody's doubling all the Duke guys, and the ball ends up in his hand. He's wide open in the corner and he's just hitting everything. Which is gonna be huge for them. But yeah, they're not a finished product. I don't expect them to ever be. They might be ranked number 1. I take that back. They might be ranked number 1 because I think the ACC schedule could open up for them. They could once it rolls around, start stacking some wins, and maybe they sneak their way into the number 1 spot. But like I don't think they should be preseason. The hype isn't like holy shit, it's Duke versus the field. The hype is like in an era where people are kind of over the one and done type guys, and we've moved on to the transfer portal type guys, and we're enamored by who are the best pickups in the portal and who was killing in the portal. This Duke team feels like a throwback to like 10 years ago when we'd be excited about the team that has the great recruiting class. And I think that beyond just being a great collection of talent, I think like from what you've seen in the exhibition in the preseason, which again, I understand the context, but to see a group of freshmen that good that early and that good defensively that early, that's what I keep coming back to is like, even if Cooper Flagg is like, he ultimately, worst case scenario is like what I said earlier is that offensively he's actually a little raw and all he can do is kind of attack the rim or shoot wide open threes, and and it's the in between that he's not as good at. I don't expect that to happen. I think he's going to be good. Even if it's that, and it's Knippel's a one-dimensional guy and he can only shoot threes, and Maluach is just like all he can do is just pick and roll and like grab offensive boards and it turns out like those 3 guys are not very polished offensively at all. They're still going to be a top 5 defense. They're still going to be shutting teams down. And I think for that reason, you have to be excited.
You're going to find out very early though, Titus, because do you know what their first month of the season looks like?
I know they got who they got in the championship. Kentucky. They got Kentucky.
The season starts Monday, November 4th. And they've got Maine, and the Cooper Flagg gets to go home or gets to see his brother game. Then they've got Army for the Coach K, whatever. Here's the rest of their month. Kentucky, Arizona, Kansas, Auburn.
They got Auburn.
On December 4th. In 1 month, they will have played Kentucky, Kansas, Arizona, and Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you could lose all. You could be 2-4, 3-4.
Right. Or not.
Or
the Arizona game's at Arizona, I think, if I remember right. That was a home and home they scheduled
at Arizona.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, like the Zion team went to the Maui Invitational and lost to Gonzaga, and they had their growing pains as well. So I'm not here to say. And then they didn't even make the Final Four. So for all the hoopla of the Zion team, like they ultimately kind of didn't accomplish a ton like we expected. But yeah, I'm fired up to see what this Duke team can become for sure.
Can we get Duke to maybe lose like a couple of those early, so then we can jump on a futures bet?
Yeah,
Duke loses 3 games in November.
Throw people off the scent.
I like that.
Another exhibition I want to talk about. Kansas loses at Arkansas, which I on the Kansas side of things, like I still am a believer in Kansas. I've said this throughout the preseason, and I always laugh at myself when I say it because they're the preseason #1 team, and I'm saying I'm a believer as though that's like going out on a limb. And the context, of course, is like last year I was not a believer, and we saw how it all ended up for them last year, and they couldn't really shoot, and they didn't have depth, and yada yada yada. I've made that point a handful of times. I don't think this is cause for concern. I think Arkansas, they were fired up about that. Like you remember last year, Purdue played Arkansas in an exhibition game, and Arkansas beat them, and Arkansas fans turned out and packed the place, and Bud Walton Arena was rocking, and it's like a hostile environment, and that's the reason you do this if you're a Purdue or a Kansas. You go get a taste of that, you get used to that, so when it's live bullets, you're ready for it. But yeah, Kansas wasn't playing with Ryland Griffin. Kansas wasn't playing with Hunter Dickinson. The shooting was a problem, and I think if you're a Kansas fan, you're watching the Arkansas game, you're remembering last year, and you're like, oh shit, you're getting PTSD to last year where you had a court full of guys you've been told are good, and on an individual level, they're all talented players, but for some reason it's not really meshing right, and boy, we're bricking a lot of wide open shots and all that sort of thing. I still trust long term that this is a point I think when Jim was on the show, I made this point that I trust them long term because I think they are going to have the depth, and I think that they have Bill Self's going to have way more options with tinkering with lineups than he had last year. Because last year the problem to me was that they had 4 players they liked, and the rest of the roster are like, fuck, what do we do? And then Furphy was like good for stretches, but then they were like, we're kind of handcuffed with what we can do with this roster. And I think this year's team, they have more options where they can throw out like a shooter lineup, or whether they are actually hitting shots or not, but you can throw out Zeke Mayo and Ryland Griffin and DeJuan Harris and be like, all right, these are the guys that we trust to hit threes. You can have more of a defensive lineup. You could, I think there are going to be stretches with Kansas this year where Flory Badunga, who's the Indiana Mr. Basketball, he's the 5-star freshman going there. He's very, very raw. He's a high-energy guy, just like a rim-to-rim runner and try to block shots, grab rebounds, don't try to do too much else type guy. But I think like that there will be contexts where like him being out there is actually better for that. I wouldn't be surprised if there are stretches where like they look better with him out there than with Hunter out there, really? Which isn't to say that he's better than Hunter. I just think that there are going to be times where it's like we don't want to just dump it into our big man and like feed that. Like we need to get up and down a little bit, and Flory will be better in that regard. So I think this year Kansas will be able to tinker a little bit. I think at Arkansas, not having your full roster, right, not having your preseason first team All-American, it's hard to get too concerned about Kansas. But what I will say, so that part, I'm not like hitting the panic button on the #1 team losing by 16 in an exhibition. Don't really care about that. I want to go the other way and say this kid Boogie Fland on Arkansas, who I didn't know much about. I knew his name. I knew he had committed to Calipari at Kentucky and then followed him to Arkansas. Boy, he's good. He's good. And now I'm officially very excited about this freshman class in a way that I haven't been excited about the freshman class probably since the Zion.
But there's
year.
more than Zion. There's
yeah.
They're all over the place this year.
Boogie Fland, I looked it up 5 different times, and it says he's 6'2". I still don't believe it. He looks like he's 6'6". His arms are like to his ankles. His hands are like – he's got the longest arms. He gets downhill. He gets the rim at ease.
There's no way he's 6'2".
He's so in control of his body and what he's trying to do. I don't know. Anytime there's a freshman guard in college basketball – who's playing big-time college basketball especially, which I would consider, it's an exhibition game, but it's also nationally televised against the #1 team in the country. And he's going up against DeJuan Harris, who's one of the 5 best point guards in the country. Anytime a freshman looks under control but also explosive at the same time. It stands out to me, and it's like, this is not supposed to happen. You're supposed to like you're supposed to like rein in a little bit and be like, dude, you can't just put your head down and try to dunk on everybody. You can't just just be more athletic than everybody, because you're going up a level. Now all of a sudden, like, guys can stay with you when you try to drive past them. But he's going to be special. I think he's going to be. I mean, he's going to obviously be Arkansas's best player.
Yeah, he looks like he's the focal point of the team. Like, he's what makes the offense go. And
I'm back in a familiar position. I said this at the top. I'm back in a familiar position of thinking John Calipari's a bozo, telling myself, like, I got to be like the guy in Memento that's just like writing notes to myself on my body so I remember it, because it's like I end every season just saying, stop believing in John Calipari, and then I see the talent on his team, and I'm like, I have to. You're bringing John L. Davis off the bench, dude.
It's crazy.
You're bringing Trevon Brazile, which I didn't know. By the way, Trevon Brazile, I didn't know I thought it was Trayvon Brazile for his entire career, but like I don't know. So somewhere along the line, they changed it on me. Bringing Trevon Brazile off the bench, who was a kid that now he's had injuries. He's an erratic basketball player. I understand all that, but once upon a time, this guy was thought to be a lottery pick in the NBA draft. He has lottery type flashes, and you have John L. Davis, who averaged 18 points a game and went to a Final Four
and got $1 million+ to come to Arkansas.
Yeah, and you're bringing these two guys off the bench. Yeah, I mean, suddenly I was watching Arkansas, and I was like, God damn it, am I gonna believe in a John Calipari team again?
So what's your cause for concern there? Like, I'm interested to get to our predictions later, because this team is extremely talented.
Yeah.
But what's your cause for concern?
Cause for concern is it's John Calipari. It's Coach Cal. It's there are still a lot, like, John L. Davis is still an erratic basketball player. You remember how the NCAA tournament ended for FAU. This past run, the John L. Davis decision making was questionable, to say the least. We'll say Brazile he's like a diet Coleman Hawkins, where it's just like you put his highlights together and you're like, God damn, this guy should he be the number one pick? And then you watch him for stretches and you're like, can this guy get any minutes for this team, or is he just costing them every time he's on the court? So he's erratic. DJ Wagner, who looked good in the exhibition, and is the I guess the talking point with him is they're saying he was banged up last year, now he's fully healthy, and like we're gonna get a different DJ Wagner, because he was a number one recruit, and some services had him as the number one recruit going into Kentucky last year, and then he just wasn't all that great for a number one recruit. He's still a big question mark to me. I think Boogie Fland's going to be good, but he is a freshman, and I don't think turning into a freshman point guard and being like, you have to carry us to and what I believe is going to be the deepest conference in college basketball. We're expecting you to carry us to the promised land. I don't know if that's a winning formula. And then Big Z, the Croatian kid who went to Kentucky last year. He did this last year, where like when we got our first glimpses of him, Kentucky fans were like, holy shit, we're winning the national championship. Arkansas fans are getting their first glimpses of him. Now they probably remember him at Kentucky, but now this is the first time seeing him in a Razorback uniform. He wasn't as good as he thinks he is in his head, but like you see when you have a 7'2" guy that's like jab step and shooting threes, you see the vision with like how good he could potentially be, and the shooting stroke is there, and he's obviously capable shooter, and he's got length and all that. But every time he touches the ball, he's like, I'm gonna get drafted. That was a takeaway I had watching the Arkansas Kansas game, was like, Big Z, we need to tone it down a little bit. And so I think the biggest question with Arkansas is, is there going to be buy-in? Can everybody figure out what their role is on the team? Because they're supremely talented, but can John Calipari figure out how to get this talent to all play together? Is this a familiar talking point with John Calipari? Does it sound familiar?
My question for you then is this. This is the same story every year with Coach Cal in Kentucky. It's just a new place. How does this talent match up to his Kentucky talent teams?
I think this is like It's a talented team, but I mean, like he's had some talented teams in the past. So I feel like this is probably like a mid-tier Kentucky team. You know, like I feel like you look back on the last 15 years of John Calipari Kentucky teams. Yeah, I feel like this is probably right around the average.
So if
he's had some stinkers, but he's had some.
If this was his roster in Lexington right now, would you be? Hey, this is a national title contender.
So you're asking, is it the uniforms? If they were wearing Kentucky uniform? If the year is 2017 and they're all wearing Kentucky uniforms, how much do I believe in this?
Yeah.
I'd probably have them top 10.
Okay.
I'd probably put them top 10. But I also I've given up on Cal. But the talent is there. I will say the talent is there, and I will Boogie Fland. I think he's going to be very special. And I looked up. So I was so excited about the freshman class. I think this freshman. I said earlier. I think this freshman class is going to be better than any freshman class we've seen in a while. But I more importantly, I think one of my big preseason takes that I have that I would like to get out there before official play starts. I think this year is going to be a massive shift away from the portal. And what I mean by that is not I don't think coaches are going to stop going to the portal. What I mean is the guys we talk about as being impact players. I think freshmen are going to make a much bigger difference across the country than portal players.
Wow.
I think the year of the freshman, this is going to be the year of the freshman.
Do you think is this the year of the freshman, or is this how basketball is trending?
Like
obviously class by class it can change, but kids are coming out way more polished than they ever have.
Yeah. Because the next class is supposed to be pretty good. It might be just where it's trending for the short term, I'd say. But yeah, I feel like we're trending back to that where I think you're going to start. I think the portal guy, you're still going to have guys that want to dip into the portal because there's still value in I know that this guy can do it on this level.
Exactly.
I saw this guy.
You need a shooter. He's shot 41% at his school. We need to.
He was on a shitty team, but he was playing an ACC schedule all season. So let's bring him into our school, and I know he can do it against ACC caliber guys. So now let's bring him to my Big 12 school, and I'm going to trust that he's going to be able to replicate it. There's still value in that. But I do think this year, and it's not just Cooper Flagg's going to be the guy, obviously, but the other two freshmen at Duke, obviously the Rutgers guys, I think a lot of that's going to be dependent on how good that team actually is, and if those two, I think those two guys are going to be awesome. But if we do get to February and they're 500 and there's work to be done for them to even get on the bubble and stuff like that, then maybe. We're not talking about them as much, even though they're still high on the draft boards. The Baylor kid, Edgecombe.
Mm-hmm.
So good. He's going to be so good. And I think Baylor's going to be so good. So I think he's going to be relevant all year. The Carolina guys were MIA. So we'll see about them. They had the Powell and Ian Jackson, I think, the other kid. When they played the Memphis game, that's the only time I didn't watch the Carolina. Who they played? Johnson City?
Yeah, it was Division II, John Smith. I don't know. It wasn't Power 4, I'll tell you that.
It's just like a the only thing I know about Johnson City is it shows up in that Wagon Wheel song.
Johnson City.
Johnson, is that who they played?
No.
They played Wagon Wheel University. I don't know how the freshmen looked in, but against Memphis, the
Johnson C. Smith.
Oh.
And they waxed him.
Oh. So it wasn't Johnson City at all.
Johnson
I just heard Johnson C, and my brain went to Johnson City. I don't know how the Carolina freshmen looked there, but when I watched them against Memphis, they were kind of MIA. But I think Carolina's going to be good, and I think they're going to. I have to trust that they're going to come around. But doing it at Kansas, like I said, I think there's going to be. He's not going to start for him. He's not going to be awesome for him. He's not going to put up massive numbers, but he'll have flashes where he'll block shots and run the floor and get the Allen Fieldhouse crowd going. I think this. I mean, ultimately, you look at the 24/7. Here's the final point on the freshman class and why I'm so excited. You look at the 24/7 recruiting rankings, which I believe are the preeminent recruiting rank. That's the one. That's the one people use. Boogie Fland, who I think is. If you told me that Boogie Fland is a second, third team All-American this year, I see that. I see that vision. I see that happening. I think he could be that. He was 22nd. He's a 4-star recruit. He was ranked 22nd in the country in this recruiting class. 24/7 says that he is the 22nd most talented freshman entering college basketball.
And he's about to be the focal point of Coach Cal's extremely talented Arkansas.
Yes. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at with this. I mean, Quaintance, the kid on Arizona State, the big kid that he was. I thought he was good against Duke, and it's hard to find any silver lining if you're an Arizona State fan when you lose by 60 in an exhibition game. But I that's the phrase I keep going back to. I see the vision. Like I'm watching him play. He is fucking huge, dude. And he moves so well on the floor for how big he is. And he's like 17 years old. He's gonna be back next year. They were saying during the exhibition. He's not even gonna be eligible for the draft this year. I think he's gonna be really good. It's just I don't know how relevant Arizona State's gonna be, but yeah, I think that's one of my preseason takes that I feel pretty strongly confident in is that we will spend more time talking about the freshmen this year, and not even just Cooper Flag, the rest of the freshman class, than some of the transfers. Really, all the transfers. Like I from this past season. Obviously, the transfers that have been there for now a couple years, like your Caleb Loves,
right, is different.
Your Mark Sears and Hunter Dickinson and shit. But I'm talking about this cycle of portal. I think the freshmen are going to have a bigger impact than the portal guys this year. So, anyway, those are the two scrimmages or exhibitions I wanted to talk about the most. I'd say Indiana beating Tennessee was noteworthy. Miles Rice is getting to the paint anytime he wanted, but I still Indiana's going to be Indiana's a big wait and see. The talent is there, but like I was watching a little bit of that, and I don't know if it's like Tennessee, because I think Tennessee is going to take a massive step back, and that might be one of the hater takes I have is I don't think Tennessee is going to be all that great this year. And I say that as a guy, Tennessee fans, if you're new to the show, you might be sharpening your knives. If you're not new to the show, you understand how much I loved Tennessee last year, and you understand that I have nothing against Rick Barnes and the Vols, but I don't know where the offense is going to come from for them, and I think they're just going to regress back to just disgusting Tennessee basketball after Dalton Connect was like manna from heaven for them last year. I think they're just going to regress to disgusting Tennessee basketball. So I don't know how much of it was that Indiana playing Tennessee, but I am worried that Indiana is basically just going to be the exact same team they were last year, but more talented. Like they're gonna have more success because they're going to be more talented, but yeah, I'm worried. I'm worried that it's just going to be like very clunky offense and throwing like Woodson's just like throwing as many big guys out there as he can, and
there's a little bit of a hype train going around Indiana after that result.
There is, yeah. No, there is. There is. Miles Rice is good. He's very good. The shooting's going to be a question. That's all I'll say. The shooting will be a question.
Which it was
it was last year, yeah. Huh. So we'll see. Purdue Creighton was a good game. Creighton's going to be pretty good. Yeah. And Purdue that was a great example of an exhibition where both teams won. I think Purdue fans were like, yeah, we'll take this.
What do you want out of your exhibitions? Like if you were the coach of Chicago State, what are you guys doing?
I think honestly the thing I would want to see most is just good offensive flow. I think I would want the flow. Give me some flow.
Okay.
I want the ball moving. I want guys moving. I want because these guys you've been practicing it all off season, and you've been running against scout team, and you've been playing against each other, and you've been drilling over and over and over and over. Now you want to see it put to a more serious test than what practice is, and I would want to see offense that like resembles what we run when we're running 5-on-0. And practice and shit like that.
Are you trying to do that against a Purdue or a Creighton, or would you rather like it's going to look better against the lesser talented teams? I don't know if you were coaching.
It depends on like it depends on what you have. Like if you're a Purdue and you're bringing back a Braden Smith, and Purdue has questions because you have to replace Zach Edey. Mm-hmm. You're not going to replace him. You have to fill that vacuum.
Figure out how to play without
him. But Purdue has guys like they bring back 3 starters from a national runner-up team, and your backcourt that have been together forever and have played forever and know each other super well. Like there's a lot of known with Purdue, so I think going on the road and playing a Creighton, which is a tough ask, I think that's less of a worry. Whereas same thing with Kansas. Like Kansas is not worried about going to Arkansas, and it's like are these young guys you're not worried about like what is Flory Badunga going to be ready. It's like, well, who gives a fuck? This is Kansas, dude. You got to catch up. Like we got guys we trust enough that we can go on the road and see what we got here. Whereas Duke playing at home makes a lot of sense. Duke having like freshmen and being like, let's control this environment a little bit more. That makes a little more sense.
Keep the confidence high.
Keep the confidence high. So I think if you're a team that's like you trust what you got a little more, you're willing to take a bigger swing on some of these exhibitions. I mean, Carolina going on the road and playing Memphis. When RJ Davis, I don't even think played in that game, but they have some guys that and Baycott's not there, but Seth Trimble is back, and I don't know. They feel like a team that is more willing to take some of these swings. But yeah, I think I would do it. I think I would sign up for because there's nothing to lose really. Like if you get your ass beat.
Then you just say it's an exhibition.
You say it's an exhibition, and then you have teachable things on film. Like Arizona State shouldn't be. If you're in the Arizona State locker room after getting your ass beat at Duke, and you're saying, "Oh shit, we're fucked," then you shouldn't have ever signed up to play Big 12 basketball.
Right.
You should be going back and just being like, "All right, so we have things to work on."
Yeah.
So we're not there yet, obviously. And I imagine if Bobby Hurley's anything like his brother, he's actually excited that they lost by 60 because he's like, "This is good. This is
stuff on tape."
Yeah, I got some things I can yell at him about. So yeah, what else do we need to do in the preseason? I have other preseason takes. I'm trying to think about. Do I rapid fire them off? I have a National Player of the Year pick that I'd like to share.
Do some
I think
predictions.
This might be the. Should I do some predictions?
Do some predictions.
I think I sat on it. Now, and when I say I sat on it, I mean there are times you come over to my house, I am literally just sitting at the couch, like staring at the wall, thinking about college basketball, and I'm like really just like trying to picture things. I'm trying to like, I don't know. The algorithm I got in my brain is a scary place to be. When the algorithm's firing, it's a scary place to be inside my brain. But I'm just sitting there picturing shit. I'm trying to run some numbers. I'm doing all that. And I had an epiphany the other day where I was like, Mark Sears is going to win the National Player of the Year.
Best guard in the country.
Mark Sears is so obviously going to win the National Player of the Year. And then I pull up my DraftKings app because I'm like, I'm sure he's, I'm sure Mark Sears is the favorite. Mark Sears is the fourth favorite.
Really?
Yeah. Cooper Flagg and RJ Davis are the favorite. Hunter they're tied, I think. I think they were both plus 700, I think, when I looked at it.
I would have thought Mark Sears would have been the favorite for sure.
Hunter Dickinson is third, and then Mark Sears is fourth.
Nice.
And I don't know. I think Mark Sears is going to win National Player of the Year, and here's why. Mark Sears averaged 22 points a game last year. Mark Sears averaged 4 assists last year. I expect those numbers to go up. I expect Mark Sears to be – he was last year for Alabama but I expect it to be even more pronounced where he is the engine that makes them go. He's going to have the ball in his hands constantly for an offense that is, I expect Bama to, they've always played fast under Nate Oates. Last year they actually took a step back a little bit in tempo. I expect them to be back to like one of the fastest teams. They were technically one of the, I think they were top 10 or 15 or something. But I think they're going to be like 1, 2, 3, somewhere in there, fastest tempo. I think they're going to get up and down. They are clearly going to have the highest scoring offense. Mark Sears shoots 44% from three-point line. He's an unbelievable shooter. He's going to have the ball in his hands all the time. He's going to have games where he scores like 45 points. And Bama's going to win like 126 to like 94 and some shit like that. And he's going to have like 45. And I think at the end of the season, Alabama is at the very worst case scenario I see for this Alabama team this year is a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament at the very worst. Because they're going to play in the SEC. And even if they start stacking up losses and they go to Kentucky, I don't even know what their schedule is. So maybe they don't play at Kentucky. They go to Kentucky and lose. They lose a close one to Auburn. They have like a head scratcher where like a fucking Florida beats them by 17 or something. They're still gonna be able to turn around and stack up massive wins. Where like Ole Miss is gonna be a good team, and they'll beat Ole Miss, and they'll beat Mississippi State, or they'll beat Texas A&M. There's so many teams. There's so many good teams in the SEC that I think when the dust settles on this SEC season, that Alabama is going to have all sorts of marquee wins.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
their resume, they could lose 8 games and they're still going to be, and their non-conference schedule's tough. They could lose 8 games and they're still going to be like a 2 seed.
A 2 seed. Yeah, I mean, they're non-conference, like you just alluded to. Purdue, Houston, Rutgers, UNC, Creighton. They're going to have some marquee wins, and then they're going to play in that rugged SEC. You're saying if they're a 2 seed and he has these types of games and these types of numbers, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna like if they're a 2 seed and Mark Sears is averaging 25 a game, 25 points a game, which is not crazy to think. Even if he puts up the numbers he put up last year, I think, yeah, he's right there for National Player of the Year, because I think Hunter cannot. If Hunter is putting up numbers, that's actually a bad thing for Kansas.
That's bad for Kansas. If Hunter Dickinson is averaging 22 and 12 for Kansas, Kansas is not that good. And I say that's not even a criticism of Hunter. It's just like you cannot be that reliant on Hunter Dickinson and expect to go.
But you can be on a guard.
You can be on a guard is what I'm saying. And R.J. Davis is a great scorer, and he certainly has the talent. But I think sort of the same thing with Carolina. Like, I don't think Carolina wants R.J. Davis to. I think if Carolina wants to be as good as they expect themselves to be, R.J. Davis does have to not shoot quite as much, which is not – that's not a criticism of R.J. Davis. It's like I think they need to play more team basketball, whereas Alabama, this is specifically the style of play that they want, is they want to – and Carolina fans are going to be like, well, listen, man, we invented the point guard. We invented fast break. We invented the point guard. Who are you to say that R.J. Davis doesn't want to get out and go and have the ball in his hands and be the decision maker for this team? I'm not saying that. I'm saying Mark Sears is R.J. Davis, just more pronounced. I think Bama's going to play faster. I think they're going to score more. I think Mark Sears is a little bit better shooter, and I think beyond that he's gonna average more assists. He's gonna have the ball in his hands a little bit more in a way that frankly, if I'm Carolina, like, I would be fine with that. I don't want R.J. Davis to have the ball in his hands quite as much, because I think that'll be better for the team.
You will get that matchup in the SEC ACC Challenge this year.
Oh yeah,
Carolina.
We got it in the Sweet 16 last year too.
There you go.
Right? It was the Sweet 16. It was the Elite 8. Did they play in the Elite 8 or Sweet 16? They played in the tournament. No, they played. They played Clemson in the. They played Clemson in the Elite 8. Clemson made the Elite 8. So it was a Sweet 16, right? They played Carolina.
Remember, it was 89 to 87 or something.
That's right.
Like that. Yeah, reached the Elite 8. Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. They played in the Sweet 16. They played Carolina, yeah. And then Cooper Flagg. As much as I love the kid, I actually let me think about his National Player of the Year. I don't think he's going to be I got to be careful. How do I say this? I don't think he's going to be like a 20-point a game guy.
Okay.
And I might be overreacting to one exhibition against Arizona State, but I think Cooper Flagg is going to be. I think he's going to make his mark defensively. I think he's going to be his National Player of the Year case is going to be Duke has to be good. I think he's going to be number 1 pick good the entire season. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about, like, it's February and we're like, oh, remember when we thought Cooper Flagg was going to be the number 1 pick? I think he's still going to be that dude. What I'm worried about, Tate, is that as the season wears on, you realize Cooper Flagg's impact is on defense, and it's on defense in a way that, like, it doesn't exactly jump out at you in the box score.
Wise, yeah.
He's just, like, really good at contesting shots. He's really good at rotating over and closing out, and maybe he'll block shots. He'll get some steals here and there. But when like the season ends, you have like a Mark Sears on a 2-seed Bama, or probably a 1-seed Bama, who won the SEC, averaging 24 a game with 5.5 assists or something. And then you have Cooper Flagg, who's averaging like 17 and like a block and a half or 2 blocks, something like that, which is good. It's good. I'm not saying it's not good. Duke's like a 3-seed,
right?
So,
So Alabama will have the team and the individual advantage.
Yeah,
you can't just take Cooper Flagg because he impacts the game,
right,
in ways you don't see.
So the way Cooper Flagg is going to win is the media machine, which I'm going to be a part of. Right. So like that, I will help him in that regard. The media machine is just going to be pumping his tires, and they're going to be like, listen, man, he affects the game on both ends of the floor in a way that Mark Sears doesn't. He does it all. He guards 1 through 5, dude. You set a ball screen with the guy Cooper Flagg's guard, and he's just calling switch, baby, and he's manning up against the point guard now, and he can guard anybody on the floor, and he can score from any level, and like you start talking about the talent, which I do expect to be on full display, but I'm worried about the stats because I don't think I don't think Cooper Flagg's going to be a guy that's like, I need to. I don't think we're going to see like a Cooper Flagg offensive explosion every single game.
That poses an interesting question then. So is Cooper Flagg your front runner heading away your freshman of the year? Because there will be other freshmen. You've got the 2 at Rutgers. You've got Boogie Flan. You've got Edgecombe at Baylor. Will his stats be enough to win freshman of the year?
I think so. I think him. I think so. I think defensively, especially. I think that'll ultimately win out. When you're voting on National Player of the Year, everybody that votes on this shit looks at offense first, though. And defense, the only time defense gets factored in is when you're Anthony Davis and you're like blocking shots with your armpit like 35
right, like highlight reel defense.
Yeah,
not how well you switch.
You jump from underneath the basket to block a 3-point attempt, and everyone's like, God damn, that's insane. And Anthony Davis was just like something we've never seen in the history of college basketball. So I think you got to be on like that level for people to like fully understand what they're seeing defensively. I think Cooper Flagg could be that. He could be that. Like he is. His defensive instincts are unreal. But I don't know. I think his is going to have to be like a total package type thing. Like I think it's going to have to be it's not going to. He's going to have the highlights. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself back into it. I'm trying to think of how the voters see this shit, though. And I really do think like the first thing you do when you're voting on this stuff is you look at team success, then you look at
points per game. That's what you look at.
That's what you look at. And I think Bama's, again, worst case scenario, if Bama finishes anything worse than a 2 seed, there better have been some very serious injuries, which I don't want there to be. I'm just trying to think of multiple very serious injuries, or I don't know. Nate Oates is going to have to answer some questions, you know. We're gonna have to put some clown shoes on Nate Oates if they end up with anything worse than a 2 seed, because they're fucking loaded and they're very deep. And I think when the time comes to vote on this shit, you're gonna look at Bama, you're gonna look at Mark Sears' points per game, you're gonna look at his assists. He's probably going to shoot 40+% from 3, and it's just gonna be like, all right, well,
that's who you have to vote.
That's our guy. Whereas Cooper's gonna be more of like a, listen, man, if you actually break down the tape and you see the possessions in which he is a primary defender, he's only getting scored on 9% of the time.
Right. And that's why he's not going to win the vote.
Yeah. And
because if you have to talk like that.
Yeah. And that's going to be kind of the argument for him. But he will have the highlights and he will have the eyeballs on him. I'll say that much. But I think Mark Sears would be my pick for national.
Who would you rather have on your team? 1 year. Obviously, it depends what style you're playing and whatever. Who would you rather have this year?
Shit. Why would you do that, dude? Why would you do that?
I'm interested.
Why would you do that? I guess it depends on what else is around him.
Like really? I want the guard. I want the guard.
I probably want the guard, yeah.
I can't wait.
But
now you're anti-Cooper Flagg?
Yeah. But I don't know. It depends on what else is around him. Like if I have other guards that I feel confident in scoring the ball, give me Cooper Flagg. I would probably take Mark Sears, reluctantly.
For the year.
I would probably take Mark Sears. He's a veteran. He's gonna have the ball in his hands, and I do. That is one of my beliefs in all the years of watching college basketball. That seems to be the one consistent thing, is that guard play is what matters most in the end. So yeah, probably Mark Sears. I'm trying to think of what other predictions I would have. I'm trying to think of what would be crazy.
Where do you think what weekend does UConn's season end in March Madness this year? Because you don't think they're a national championship team.
I don't think they're going to win the national championship.
Are they a first weekend? Are they a Sweet 16?
They'll make the Sweet 16 at least. I got to be careful.
I want this to be played in the locker room later this afternoon in Connecticut.
If they don't win the national, if I say they don't win the national,
no, I think you're about to tell me that their season ends in the second weekend.
That's a hell of a year, dude. That's a great season.
It is.
That's a great. If you're
and there's one crazy ass bald motherfucker in Connecticut that is about to put this on a PowerPoint.
I mean, like that's the most likely scenario, is it not? That
they're a top 16 team in the country.
Yeah, that they're a 3 seed that loses in the Elite 8. They're something like that. I think they're head and shoulders better than everybody else in the Big East. I've said that about UConn going into this, or in the preseason going into the season. I think they're the one. If you're telling me to pick a power conference champion, and I who's the one team you're convinced is going to win their conference, I would say UConn.
Okay,
for sure. But I don't. There's unknowns. There's just unknowns. They'll fuck you up. They're the favorites to win the national championship.
Would you? Okay,
they're the betting favorite to win the national championship. That's pretty
insane because
to me.
Kansas and Alabama are head and shoulders the best two teams in the country going into this season.
Yeah.
Would you say
people
people
would say Houston too?
Houston?
Better. Yeah. People would throw Houston in there.
Would you say it's more likely that UConn three-peats or exits the tournament in the first weekend? It's really how much stock do you put into having an incredible coach?
I would say, here's the bulletin board material. I would say it's more likely they exit the first weekend. Yeah, it has to be. That has to be it. Yeah, there's just too much unknown. There's too much roster turnover, which I know they're bringing, like, solo ball they fucking love. And there are pieces that I don't know. I'm just thinking it through. They're gonna break my brain. That's why I want the games to start.
Yeah, once the ball's tipped,
I'll have a better idea. They're gonna break my brain. There's too much. To me, there's too much roster turnover to be that confident in the preseason. If you're a UConn fan, I would be confident. I am not a UConn fan, so I can't sit here and say honestly that I expect UConn to be a Final Four caliber team. Having said all that, I understand they're the betting favorites in their preseason. Are they third, fourth?
I think they're third in the AP.
In the
which
AP?
They should be. When you two-peat,
yeah,
or when you repeat, but then there's two experienced, talented.
But I'm going to smooth it over by saying what I said last year about UConn, which is this is not a knock on this year's team. It's more of a respect for what they lost. That, like, if any other team lost what they lost, I'd be like, yeah, they're going to take a step back.
Exactly.
Of course they're going to take a step back.
And, like, look in the mirror. If Hurley goes to the Lakers, we're not even having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're like, okay.
Yeah, if it wasn't Hurley coaching, if they had Luke Murray was the coach who I like, but he's an unknown. Yeah, it is. We're putting a lot of confidence that Dan Hurley will figure it out. In the last 2 years, he has, but we'll see. Another. I don't know if this is a prediction, but it's not. It's actually not a prediction. It's just something I'm excited to see because there's a lot of chatter about it with college football, the conference realignment stuff. I am very curious the new conference teams, how that's going to shake out. I think the most notable is going to be Arizona in the Big 12. Arizona is obviously a great program, and Tommy Lloyd, for all of his troubles in the NCAA tournament in the regular season, he's had some fucking awesome teams, and I expect him to be really good this year. But the Big 12 is an absolute gauntlet. But the flip side to that is the Big 12 prepared for the random ass trip to the mountains in Boulder and in Salt Lake City, which Pac-12 fans. I think I have a lot of Pac-12 fans that listen to the show. I was the preeminent Pac-12 guy there for a while. Pac-12 fans don't need to explain to them the dangers of the mountain trip. Now, I don't think the Big 12 is doing I'm pretty confident the Big 12 is not doing the pod scheduling. So the Pac-12 used to do a deal where when you play your road games, there was always a partnership. So you would say if you're playing Arizona, you go on the road, you play Arizona on Thursday, and then on like Saturday or Sunday you play Arizona State. So you just stay, and they did that for travel purposes. So like you basically just take one trip and then you knock them both out, and then you come back. The mountain trip was a beast because teams would, even when Utah and Colorado wouldn't even have that great of teams, it was almost impossible to go to the mountains and pull off both wins. Mm-hmm. Now I think in recent years teams have had a little bit more success, but there's so many instances of just like head scratching results in Utah and Colorado, and I'm going to be fascinated by that because I don't think either one of those teams are going to be very good. And I'm curious, both of them entering the Big 12, are they going to, because they're going to have their opportunities. They're going to have so many good teams come to play in Boulder and Salt Lake City. Are they going to sneak up on teams and beat them? I'm curious about the travel of it. A lot was made of it in the football season of the Big Ten, of the teams going west or the West teams coming east, all that sort of thing. that seemed to matter. It seems to have mattered in the football, and that's for a one-time thing.
That's the thing. It seems to have mattered on you have all week to get prepared for it. You might have to do this on a Thursday and then go somewhere else on a Monday.
Yes. How is that going to work? I was noticing some of the scheduling was a little more they're taking the Pac-12 method. The Big Ten is with some of this where. I do think like UCLA plays like Maryland and then Rutgers a few days later.
Ohio State has their trip to UCLA and USC in the same 3 days.
Right. But I'm curious how that'll all pan out because I do think, and maybe this is just like confirmation bias, but when I would watch Pac-12 basketball, I did think that there were some very bizarre road results, which is just college basketball, I guess. Winning on the road is hard, but I remember just like there were some like really good Arizona teams that would lose just insane games on there. You're just losing games that just make no goddamn sense, and you're like, how could you lose that? And I always chalked it up to like this travel schedule doesn't make any sense, and you're on the road for too long, and these college kids they're not professionals. They can't go on the road for 4 days at a time. They got to go on the road and get back home. They can't lock in for 4 days. They can't play these multiple games over the stretch. But again, maybe it was just confirmation bias because every conference has struggles on the road. Final Four picks, maybe. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do some Final Four picks. What?
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Before you go Final Four, if I gave you a conference. Not who you think's going to win the national championship, not a specific team, but I said, Mark, you need to tell me which conference will win the national title. Mm-hmm. Because the SEC, I believe you've said you think is the best.
But
the Big 12, you're talking
yeah,
Kansas.
I think Kansas could win it. I think Houston could win it. I think
Iowa State.
Baylor could win it. I think Iowa State could win it. Probably not, but if Iowa State did win it, would it be the most shocking national champion ever? No, it would not. Yeah, I think the SEC, that's a good way of framing it because I do think if I had to pick one conference, I'd pick the Big 12 to produce a national champion. I think the Big 12 at the top is better, but I think the SEC is going to be the best conference.
Okay.
I think the SEC is going to have there's a world where Kentucky is or like Ole Miss is like I think the 10th best team in the SEC is going to be very good. I think the team that gets like the 10 seed in the SEC tournament could make the Sweet 16 rather easily. For
sure, but on the flip side of the coin is Alabama's the only team in the SEC in the preseason top 10.
Yeah, national title teams in the SEC. So Auburn would be the other one. Auburn, I've been told by Jim Root said that on this show that they've reinforced the guard situation. Janai Broome is I fucking love him and I think he's a productive player. But the problem with Auburn is they were so good last year and they lost to Yale in the NCAA tournament. And I don't think anybody was really particularly surprised. I think like that was a tough situation where they were a 3 seed, right? And they lost I think they were a 3 seed and they lost to a 14 seed Yale. And as it's happening, I don't know, man. Like my memory of it is like there was nobody that was like
13 versus 4.
There was nobody that was watching that was like, how is this happening? Oh my God, who saw this coming? Everyone's like, yeah. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, their guard play was a big question. Mm-hmm. They kind of felt like a paper tiger, no pun intended, all season. So if the guards that they brought in the portal can play well, maybe Auburn. I don't think they can win a national championship though. They are. KenPom has them third.
Okay.
KenPom has him third overall, and I think Janai Broome is fucking awesome. But yeah, the problem with that goes back to what I've been saying over and over is like I want to see your guard play. I don't need to see your big man who can grab boards and get offensive rebound putbacks and puts up massive numbers. Like that doesn't excite me for a national title contender. I need to see what your guards can do. Texas is interesting. We'll find out. Buckeyes got Texas on Monday.
I can't wait for Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be so fucking fun, dude.
Now I'm going to have to take a nap in the middle of the day because everything's...
We tip off... Ohio State, Texas, I think, tips off at 10 Eastern, and Gonzaga, Baylor tips off at 11:30.
11:30.
Eastern.
I mean, even Carolina's playing at 9 Eastern. Bama's playing at 9 Eastern. These games are late into the night.
Texas lost all 5 starters, but they got a ton of talent, and I want to see what it all looks like. That's the problem with preseason college basketball talk is it's just a lot of like. I mean, I see it on paper. Let me see it on the court.
Right.
So I get excited. That's why I overreact to exhibitions because once I start to see shit on the court, I'm like, oh my God, Duke is something. Arkansas, this Boogie Flan kid's going to be unbelievable. Florida's going to be good. They're not going to win the national title. I think Kentucky. I am excited about Kentucky. And I think Kentucky's going to be very, very fun to watch. They're not going to win the national title. Arkansas is going to have a bunch of talent. They're not going to win the national title. I think Tennessee takes a step back. They're still going to be good. They're still going to comfortably make the tournament. They're not going to win the national title. It might just be Bama. Bama might be the only one.
Yeah, you're a Big 12 guy. You've just talked yourself into being a Big 12 guy.
I think the SEC is going to be the deepest, best conference. Yeah, that's the way I would phrase it. Is like I think the 10 seed in the SEC tournament could pretty comfortably make the Sweet 16. I don't, the draw is going to matter, but I think like it wouldn't surprise me if the team that's the 10 seed in the SEC tournament wins both NCAA tournament games in the first weekend by like 15, and they just like cruise to the Sweet 16. But at the same time, I don't know how many national title contenders I'm seeing.
Kentucky's your 8 in the preseason poll. Kentucky's 8, Texas 7.
Yeah, I mean when you put it that way, like Duke, Carolina, I both think can win the national championship.
That's
so
two
like
in
the ACC. The ACC as a whole, I think, is dog shit. But Duke and Carolina are 2, and I think the SEC only has 1. But having said all that, I think the Big Ten might have 0, Tate. I think the Big Ten might have 0.
What's the Big Ten? Talk to me about the Big Ten.
Big Ten might have 0. The Big Ten is gonna be a lot of B+ basketball being played.
Who's the best B+? Who's winning the Big Ten? I want that prediction.
It's probably Purdue.
It
probably is going to be Purdue, and it's probably Purdue for the reason that they have the best coach in the conference right now. I think Michigan State fans just paused the podcast and started formulating some tweets to throw at me.
Yep.
But as it stands right now, I don't know how you can argue that Matt Painter's not running the conference. They have the best guard in the conference, in Braden Smith. They still have a lot of question marks. I think Fletcher Lawyer needs to be a little more consistent than he's been, and I think he needs to be like at this point we need to stop just being patient and like hoping that he can he needs to be a playmaker. He needs to be a legit scorer, and he can be that for them, but he needs to consistently do that, which is not to say that every night I need 20 out of him, but I need him. We can't have games from Lawyer where he's just disappearing. But yeah, I think the home court advantage is going to factor in. I think winning in Mackey Arena is very, very hard. And on top of all of that, I think Purdue is one of the handful of programs, and I do mean this as a compliment, and coming off a Final Four, you can't take this as an insult anymore, Purdue fans. I think Purdue is one of the very few programs that winning a regular season conference championship does still mean a great deal to them. They have the most Big Ten regular season championships. That's important to them. That has been the knock on them for a long time, is like they care too much about the regular season and then it falls apart in March. But I still think even though they went to the Final Four last year, I still think they're a program that's like, no. Michigan State might have this view of like everything we're doing in January and February is leading up to March. Fuck all that. We do want to go on the road at Northwestern and send a message that we are the best team in the conference. We do take it very seriously that Iowa is coming to our place, and like we're not just going to sleepwalk through this game. We have to fucking bring it every single night. And I think Purdue, for that reason, I think Purdue culturally cares.
How many Big Ten teams do you think could truly win the Big Ten regular season? Like Michigan's 9th, Ohio State's 8th in the preseason poll. If either of those won, would you be shocked?
No.
Rutgers, shocked?
UCLA, not shocked. Rutgers winning it would be a surprise, not a shock.
Michigan State?
Purdue, Illinois, UCLA. I think Oregon. Oregon, I might be a little surprised. I mean, the talent's there with Oregon. I don't think Oregon. I would be. Maybe it's just me being a Big Ten homer. I would be a little bit. I think if any of the newcomers won, I'd be shaken up a little.
Which is crazy because Oregon and UCLA are supposed to be contenders, but it's just like they're not going to win the Big Ten, right?
USC beat Gonzaga in an exhibition. That's one I didn't even mention earlier, by the way. Gonzaga is a team that brings everyone back and is supposed to be
they're top.
Not a finished product, but like they're a team that like is supposed to hit the ground running, and they lost their exhibition to USC, so maybe USC is a team that will be in the mix. I don't know, man. I'm so fired up. There's so much unknown, which makes it hard to do this job in the preseason. But it makes it so fun going into a college basketball season. I think this Maybe I do say it every year. I don't think I do though. I mean, I definitely will watch college. You could just throw a bunch of shit out there and I'll still watch it because I just love college basketball that much. But I don't think I get excited to this level every single season like I am. I don't know. I'm trying to think back on other seasons. I think this is I think I'm a pretty reliable source with this stuff. That like I don't expect people to go crazy. I don't think college basketball will ever be as big as it was in the 80s and 90s and all that, and I don't think it's going to be a resurgence in that regard. But I do think between the Cooper Flag hype, the freshmen at Rutgers, but the whole freshman class, I think the national landscape is so unknown. You have the Big Ten that's unknown, which is, hyper specific, and it's just for the Big Ten fans. But the Big Ten is the biggest conference, money wise. Mm-hmm. In college sports. The SEC is going to be unknown as well. Like the SEC, Bama's at the top, but like it's super fucking deep, and I think that's going to be interesting. So you have the two biggest conferences are unknown, and the Big Ten especially. I don't know. I think all the unknown makes it super fun, and I can't wait for the games to actually tip off because not only Monday's going to be great, but then Kansas is playing Carolina. Carolina is going to Allen Fieldhouse on next Friday, a week from tomorrow.
Wow.
We get Carolina at Kansas. That Saturday, I think, is it Auburn? Let me pull it up. I wrote it down.
That Saturday, you have Baylor, Arkansas, and Auburn, Houston.
Yeah, Baylor opens up in Gonzaga and then Arkansas, and you have Auburn, Houston. And you have Tennessee at Louisville. So the opening week's going to be awesome, and then it rolls into feast weeks not too long after that. Maui's going on, and I think. For what it is, for a niche sport that it is, I do think that college basketball will be quote unquote back, if that makes sense. I think having the returning guys with the mix of the freshmen, I think it's just like a perfect landscape for this to be a big year. You have a two-time defending champion that has question marks, the perfect amount of question marks. They're still going to be good. How good are they going to be? We don't know. All of it's perfect. I think the way it's lining up, I'm excited for this season in a way I haven't been in a long time. So
you giving us a national champion?
National champion.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
My national championship pick. My Final Four. I'll do a Final Four.
Okay.
Final Four. Give me. Okay, so I got to think about engagement here. Give me. This might sound crazy, but I think Butler. I do. I think Butler's in the final. Okay, give me. I will throw. Okay. I think I'm gonna put the Final Four that I just want to have happen out there. I want Duke in the Final Four.
Okay.
I want Alabama in the Final Four.
Okay.
I want UConn in the Final Four, but this is too top heavy.
No, you got to do what you think.
And here's one for you. Here's one. I'll get crazy. Give me Duke, give me Bama, give me UConn, and give me Rick Pitino's St. John's job.
Wow.
Give me Rick Pitino back in the Final Four.
There's a name for you outside the preseason top 25.
Give me Rick Pitino back in the Final Four. Give me Kadary Richmond leading St. John's to the Final Four. And holy shit, would that be something? If that's the Final Four, if you have Rick Pitino with Bama and Connecticut and Duke, oh my God, dude. That would
just
be
chose
incredible.
The dream Final Four.
That would be a dream Final Four. You have Cooper Flag. You have Bama, who like if Bama's like the number 1 overall seed in a Final Four with the number 1 overall pick, and then also the two-time defending champs, and also
the team looking for a
Rick Pitino St. John's resurgence. Holy shit, dude, that would be something. All right, I got so excited about these exhibitions, dude. We didn't get to talk about the NBA, but whatever.
Yeah.
Rapid fire NBA. What's Cavs are 5-0. You just say
best record in basketball.
Cavs are 5-0. Are you?
Are you done laughing at me when I bring them up? I'm serious, because you're always like, and I guess we got to talk about Cavs. 5-0.
No, the Cavs are good, dude.
No,
I've never said the Cavs are
tapes. Good. Bullshit.
There's a massive gap between the Celtics and Cavs. And the Celtics lost last night, but
the gap is 1 game in the standings because the Cavs are 5-0.
I think there's work to be done with the Cleveland Cavs.
Can I get 30 seconds of you on Bronny? Like, we need a Bronny update. You can't go a show without talking Bronny.
Bronny got on the board. He hit a shot. Bronny, I want Bronny to go away for his own good. I want Bronny to go to the G League and grind a little bit. And like we've had both moments, but like I want Bronny I want it to feel a little more earned. Because the pity, everybody's like, I'm gonna say this as a guy who lived through it. The cheers when you get in a game and score, especially from an opposing crowd,
standing ovation.
The pity cheers is the most humiliating thing you can feel on a basketball court. For me, this was my experience as a guy that would check in and like I would demonstrate that I can dribble a basketball and people would be like, "Holy shit. He didn't trip over his own feet. Oh my God. Are you seeing honey, wake up. You
he's
have to see
getting that
this.
in the pros.
Yes, he's getting that in the National Basketball Association. And I don't know, maybe it's like my own neurotic brain. Like I just overanalyzed what was going on when that would happen. But like that was honestly how I developed the Club Trillion persona, I think, is because I remember my freshman year, I checked in a game at Nationwide Arena. We were playing Youngstown State. Jamar Butler hits me with an advanced pass. I'm running out on the fast break, fucking spotting up on the wing. Jamar Butler throws it to me. I catch it. I look up. I'm wide open. I'm like, I'm gonna let that bitch fly. I hit a three, and the crowd reacted like I was like fucking. Like, this is the first time I was Cody out there.
Yeah.
They reacted like I was Cody.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh, my God,
and
this
that's
kid?
LeBron James Jr. right now.
And I remember that feeling of like, bitch, I could do this in my sleep. Like, I can catch and hit a three in my sleep. And the crowd reacting like that, I walked away. Yeah, I wasn't, like, I'm not expecting Ohio State fans to know who the hell I was. Or like, I get how it all happened, but I was just sort of like, is that who I am on this team? I guess I am.
But now multiply that by 10, though, because I've officially, the story on Bronny is done to me. I feel bad for him because, Titus, after you did that, you did not cut down the net and take it home with you. You did not
cut down the net?
They gave him, there is no net in Cleveland right now because Bronny James got to take it home with him, and then he went and did a post-game interview. And I think they're putting him in such a shitty spot because it's like, Titus, think of after that game if you were the focal point. Like Greg Oden and Conley, whether they're like, what the fuck is going on?
You're asking me questions. You're like, that was so brave of you, the way you made that three. I'd be like, what are you talking about?
I think you were joking when you said that. That is what LeBron said last night. He's like, Bronny handled that. I could never have. LeBron, you had 25 and 9 as an 18-year-old in your first game. Hey, I do have a question for you. More family story. Yesterday, the Bronny effect is real. We got 4 tickets to the Canton Charge G League game on December 27th.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers G League team is coming there.
Oh.
And my brother, very smart, he's like, we're going to see Bronny. Is Bron going to fuck us and make his son come play on Christmas Day with him?
Oh, are they playing? Where are they playing?
They're playing in Canton, Ohio, and we got tickets because
where are the Lakers playing, I mean, on Christmas?
Great
Who do they
question.
got? Because the game's on Christmas? The G League's playing on Christmas?
No. The plan is to bring Bronny down to the G League.
Right.
So when they come to Canton, we have tickets. But
when's the game?
27th.
Okay.
So is Bron going to call his son up from the minors for a Christmas Day game against the Warriors?
Yes, but he's on the 27th.
And then ship his ass to Canton?
Ship him to Canton.
All right, I got tickets.
Yeah. Maybe they'll do it that way.
Hopefully.
Maybe they'll do it that way. All right, I think that's it. We're going to 2 a week, by the way. Cleanup duty. We're going to 2 a week next week, so we're gonna do. I think I'm gonna do a show. I want to do a show Tuesday morning, after the Gonzaga Baylor game. We'll do. I had half of mine. If I was 10 years younger, I think I would have tried to do a live show after the game. But that's so fucking late, dude. 10:30 tip off. 10:30 tip off. That's late for the West Coast. It'll be an 8:30 tip off.
It's opening.
That game will be over. Like even if I lived in LA still, I'd be like, damn, dude, that's gonna be.
It's late.
It's gonna get over at like 11.
But you also 2 weeks ago were bring back Midnight Madness, and
I know.
But I gotta get my.
I know. I gotta get young again, dude. I gotta get. You know what my problem is? I gotta get back on campus. I haven't been. Mostly sports has tied me to like doing these daily shows here. I've dropped an anchor in studio, and I'm not traveling enough. I need to get back to campus. I need to feel young again. I need like a Dick Vitale moment where I just crowd surf. And none of the fans even really asked for it. I just jumped. I was like, well, I'm crowd surfing. They're like, who are you? And I'm like, shut the fuck up and catch me.
What campus would get the juices flowing? If you go to one campus, where are you going? Get the juices flowing again. Right now, this year.
You know where I want to go? I don't know if this is the answer to that question, but I'm going to answer your question. with an answer to a question you didn't even ask. The number one place I want to travel to, and I mean this sincerely, I want to go to Arkansas. I want to go to Bud Walton Arena and go to a game. And I say this as a guy who put clown shoes on John Calipari last March, but I badly wanted to go to Bud Walton Arena, and I think Boogie Fland has the juices flowing, and I want to go. And I think does Arkansas play? Let me see. Who they got at home? Give me a good one. They got Bama at home Saturday, February 8th. I think that might be it. I think that might be when I go. All right, that's the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next Tuesday. I'm gonna do it. I think we're gonna do a Tuesday Friday cadence throughout the season. I'm gonna try to stick to that. Now, one thing I do want to put on the viewer, the listener's radar, and everyone else in this room that works on the show's radar. I do think we want to do live shows. I think we're going to do some live shows throughout the season. We're going to pick our spots, though. We got to figure out, if it's a particularly great slate, if it's a great game, and it makes sense, we'll go live after the game and do it that way. And it's more fun. It's more fun for me. I think it's more fun for the people that just got done watching the game. So that might mess up the cadence. We'll sort that out as we go, but we are officially moving to 2 shows a week. Because there will be basketball to talk about. And I don't have to do this preseason waffling bullshit where I'm like, I think they'll be good, but I'm not sure how good. Because my brain is just like second-guessing everything because looking at spreadsheets and looking at rosters will drive you fucking crazy, and you can talk yourself into anything. And I want to see the ball get tipped, and I want to see some actual basketball that I can talk about. And finally, at long last, we're getting it on Monday. We'll see you guys on Tuesday talking about real-life actual basketball and talking about the hopefully 1-0 undefeated and should be top 10 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, fingers crossed. See you guys then.